28 Days and Beyond, where we celebrate and reflect on our history, our heritage, our culture, and our own authentic voice. And I'm your host, Alexander Evans, and with me, my co-host, Amari Johnson.
What's going on, man?
Role models.
Mm-hmm.
CB, Charles Barkley.
Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Round, mound, and rebound.
Okay.
I'm not a role model.
Yep.
Why we only look to role models being athletes?
Yeah. But I think the real question for me in that situation was, or the debate around him saying he's not a role model was the fact is you are in the public eye.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe one of the reasons that folks look up to athletes is because they're in the public eye, they're accomplished, right? Mm-hmm. They are rich, right? Mm-hmm. So that may be. Now the question is he a role model, whether he wants to be or not? What do you think?
Here's my thing. I think role models are people, in my estimation, that people that you can touch and you know. Because those people who have the immediate impact in your life, I will call him a distant marker if I want him to be a role model in how to rebound a basketball or his athletic prowess. But as a person and character development, we really don't know them. And I believe in order to be a role model, you got to know the intrinsic part and the characteristics of that person and how they conduct themselves in their daily lives.
I don't know, though. I mean, if we're talking about role model, you're modeling a role. Yeah. What role are they modeling? So I don't know if you knew this about me, but I'm a rock star.
Yeah, okay? Only on the weekends?
No. Every day, all day.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right?
All right.
You understand that?
I'll be.
And where I got that from when I was a child, right? Junior high, playing guitar. A black kid playing an instrument where I was from was like, what? And I had a big poster of Jimi Hendrix on my wall, and that meant more to me. Now, obviously, I never met Jimmy, but that was my best friend in junior high, right? Because he was somebody who was always there. He was somebody who I could look to, who, with no fear, pursued what it was he was called to do. And that served as an example to me. It's like, it doesn't matter what people say, right? If you have a commitment to a higher calling or a higher purpose, then you should be able to do that regardless. And in that sense, he influenced my idea of what the role of a rock star is. And then here I am before you today.
Well, and watch this. I agree with you, predicated on the instrument you was playing and something that you had a commonality with.
No, rock star is a philosophy. It's a way of being.
You got the hairstyle too, but I can't debate you on that.
Right. Well, they got bald-headed rock stars too. It ain't about that.
I'm talking about Jimi Hendrix.
Your essence.
Your
essence.
But here's the thing. I think too often, if we choose a role model, right, and then they act uncharacteristically of what society said they should be and exhibit human behaviors, such as these guys in their personal life, then we discount them as well. What I'm saying in conjunction with what you talked about was, yes, for that aspiration and playing the guitar, yeah, him being there, modeling that expertise that he lends himself to inspire you, yeah, I think that's a valid point. I'm saying that when we talk about shaping character and behavior, then that goes beyond me just admiring somebody for their athletic prowess or their musical talents or their intellectual capabilities at a distance.
But you were saying that it also is about their character and the things that they. Are you saying that the person has to be perfect?
No.
All right, break it down for me.
Well, that's why I said when they show realistic human behaviors and they show the ills that we all have, then people say he's not a good role model. But it's what's that marker or what I'm identifying with that individual with, such as Jimi Hendrix playing the guitar.
Certainly.
Such as an athlete, whatever sport they play. I'm a running back. I'm going to admire Marshall Faulk or Barry Sanders. Not necessarily I'm going to model my behavior after him off the field. I'm going to model the characteristics and abilities they have on the field.
And just to be clear, Jimi Hendrix was more than a guitar player.
He was, I know.
Today we're joined by an expert who can break this down for us and shed some serious light. Marcus Allen is the CEO of the Big Brothers Big Sisters Independent Region, and he'll be joining us on set when we come back.
Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond. And we're here on set with us is Marcus Allen. Welcome to the set.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Well, you know, him and I was bantering before you came on. And from your expertise, role model, mentor, break it down for us.
Well, first of all, like the conversation you guys are having about Charles Barkley, I'm a little biased as a former professional basketball player.
Okay.
I've never thought that just because you're good at a sport, you're a role model or a mentor.
Okay.
I think you give a person $1 million. If you give a fool $1 million, that's just a fool with $1 million, right? And so our kids are right, and our kids are looking up to that, right? Yeah. And so taking this job with Big Brothers Big Sisters and really believing what mentoring is about was something special for me, and so. Knowing that I came from the projects, raised in a homeless family, you know, seeing a lot of violence, uncle killed in front of me at the age of 9. My first mentor was a cop, and that cop planted a vision in my head and my heart that allowed me to be here today. And so because of that, I'm not a statistic. Okay. And so speaking of statistics, I think mentoring youth development programs should be based on empirical evidence. And so being able to be the CEO Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is a 100-year-old organization, and we've been doing this for 100 years, we've had a chance to really hone what we do with mentoring. And so I was telling you earlier, I just came back from a really awesome conference down in DC, the Mentor Conference. We had over 1,200 attendees, and these are practitioners, researchers who have been doing this work and studying what are the effects of mentoring. Does mentoring really work? And if it does, what are the things the empirical things that we can take out of that to have fidelity to certain models to ensure that our kids are actually getting better? And so, of course, I don't want to go into all of it, but there's a lot of different learnings around group mentoring, natural mentoring, mentoring targeted audiences like LGBTQ, girls who are being sex trafficked, girls who are in the juvenile justice system, gender-specific stuff. And so I think it's important for us to understand when we talk about role models, we talk about mentoring, it's not just something that is nice to do. It's really something that's necessary, right?
So let me ask you this, because you talk about results. I've always struggled with the idea of measuring qualitative aspects, right? Obviously, we can say if it were a quantitative thing, we give you this test, what score did you get? Right. But qualitative, character development, self-esteem, how do you measure those sort of things?
Well, that is a really good point, because a lot of times people want to prescribe mentoring to solve things that mentoring may not have as great an impact on. Like when they say, well, can mentoring help a kid go to college and get a good job and all those things? And I think it plays a part in that. But I think one of the things that we can be certain about is how mentoring makes the child feel. And we know that based on how a person feels, it's going to have some positive impact on their trajectory in life. And so at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we utilize evidence-based surveys, right, pre and post. So when a kid first comes to our program, we look at and we sit them down and we have them take a survey to see how do they feel about school, how do they feel about their assets, meaning people in their lives, the resources in their communities, all of this entire battery of questions. And then through that process, we have a match support specialist who's the expert working with that kid, that mentor, that family, and all the other collateral contacts to make sure that kid is actually getting what we believe that kid needs based on their answers to those questions. And then once the kid is done in our program, which is on average 3 years, right? So this is not, an easy notion here. We're not talking about you come in, you do a couple of trips, and you take a college tour, and you're done. This is a 3-year commitment for most of our mentors. And so at the end of that, we ask those questions again. And what we've been able to find is about 90% of the kids who are in our program went from not thinking they would go to college to thinking they were going to college. 98% of those kids felt better about their career or their potential for a career. They felt better about their circumstances. So to your point, what we're beginning to find now is that what's just as important as the hard data, the quantitative data, is the qualitative data. How does to put it neatly, aspiration, right? Hope. How does that child feel about their ability to be successful? And that's really what mentoring should be about. How do we help that kid chart a path for a future for success?
What is your process in defining who would be a good mentor?
Well, and that's not anyone who would sit on this stage and try to tell you exactly who would be a good mentor, I would listen to them, right? Because there's so many different people and circumstances, because there's so many dynamics that play out in that situation, right? Like, what type of kid are we talking about, right? What are the experiences that person can bring to the table? Can that person articulate those experiences? Is that person, one of the most important things, is that person going to be consistent in that young person's life, right? And so I went to a workshop today and we talked about the closure process, right? And do you have evidence-based practices around closure? Because one of the things we know is, particularly if we talk about black kids, right? Particularly African-American males, that they are so used to people coming in and out of their life and have no control of that, whether it be through tragedy, whether it be through the just living in poverty and being so transient, you name it, different people come into that person's life. And so we're very, very intentional around making sure that when a mentor, a person like yourself, good looking, role model type African American come to our door, we're just like, well, Alex is probably pretty busy, right? He got a lot of people pulling on him. Can you commit to being this kid's mentor for 12 months? And then let's talk about what that looks like when that 12 months is done, right? How do we end that match, right? Because we don't expect you to be in this kid's life forever. Now, we do have a lot of matches that have gone 30, 40, 50 years.
Wow.
Right? But we don't expect that out of all our matches, right? If that happens, great, right? But we want to make sure Alex feels comfortable. And if the big, we call our mentors bigs, we call our mentees littles. If that big's expectations are met, then that means that kid is going to feel better about the match. The big is going to feel better about the match, and that's going to equate to a positive impact for that kid.
We're here on 28 Days and Beyond with Marcus Allen, and we'll have more when we get back. We're going to dig a little bit deeper.
I really didn't have a role model growing up, and then finally, like a couple years ago, I finally got a role model, which was Mike. So like, he's the type of person that like wants me to do better in life. He actually like helped me out. He like try to give me real world experience, like try to like just benefit me in any way he can. After everything, I think made a big impact on my life, and without him, I wouldn't really know half the things I know now. Where I live at, it's a rough neighborhood, there's crime and everything. So like growing up without, a father and everything, Mike became like that type of male figure I needed in my life.
I believe everyone should have a chance to, live to their full potential, and sometimes just a matter of being able to show someone a path and maybe show them some things that they didn't know existed.
Like, it was one time, it was for my 16th birthday, it was last year, and he has like this big present. So I'm looking at it. So he's like, go ahead, unwrap it. So I unwrap it. It's this really huge book, like 1,000 and something pages of a college book. It tells you all like the statistics, what you need to get in there, the main majors and everything. So it's like, I'm looking at, he's like, just now starting to get ready to go to college. You gotta start looking into this. He's like my best friend and all. So he just want me to, be something in life, someone good, someone great.
I love being a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters. When you work with a young kid, it's life-changing. It's life-changing for me. I love being a mentor. I am so lucky to have my little brother. My family's so lucky to have my little brother in our life. It's made a difference to us. And to be able to give back to the community makes me feel great as well. So I think you get so much more out of it than you're giving. And it's a chance to give back because it's really unfair. If you're born into a certain zip code, your opportunities are limited. If you're in a neighborhood where the schools graduate less than 50% of the kids, you're at a huge disadvantage. And the opportunity to work with and help these types of kids achieve their potential is amazing.
We're back, and we're going to dig a little deeper with Marcus Allen. Marcus, there's chatter and say and myths out there. Is mentoring only needed in the black community?
Absolutely not. I think it is essential in all communities. I think it's evidence that it's not just needed in black communities by the fact that just Big Brothers Big Sisters itself has, we're located in at least 9 countries around the world, like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Japan, and we're quickly spreading to other countries. So I think there's, regardless of your ethnicity or what community you come in, there's a value to mentoring. Particularly in this country, we've seen challenges in affluent areas with white kids who are coming from divorced families, right? Dealing with the opioid addiction. There's a reason why you're seeing these challenges happening in the suburbs as well as in the inner city. We currently, Big Brothers Big Sisters, we serve 4,000 kids in this region. Right, 2,300 of those kids are in Philadelphia. The rest are spread between Chester, Delaware, Montgomery County, and also in southern New Jersey, right? And so we see very similar challenges in those communities as we see in the African American community in terms of the needs of the kids. African American community, though, is a little bit more specific in their needs because, one, there's a huge resource that's missing in the black community that you don't see in most other communities, and that's the absence of the African American man, right? And so I know we don't have even a sliver of enough time on this show to really go into that, right? But when you have a community that's decimated by the fact that half of the prison population is men of color, right? And then you have the systemic decimation of that particular part of our population for over 450 years, then that's going to cause a huge negative ripple effect. And so mentoring, as effective as it is, there are challenges that we face when we talk about overlaying that on those challenges and then trying to get the trust of the black community, particularly when you bring in a white big who's coming from a corporate, affluent environment, and now we're saying, hey, we want him to work with your son, who's 10 years old from Mantua, right? Living in poverty, don't know his father is incarcerated, and we're going to bring a white person into that dynamic. And so I think that's where the value proposition is for Big Brothers Big Sisters, because we make sure that our staff are trained around cultural bias and sensitivity and the whole white privilege, right? And making sure that our bigs understand what they're bringing to the table, and they also understand how they may be perceived, and understand that we have to deal with the guilt behind that. We also have to deal with the realities of that. And the research that I've seen thus far does not indicate that when you do cross-matching between races, that there's any negligible effect, right? We don't do matching by gender. We won't match a man with a girl or vice versa. We do match some women with boys who are under the age of 9. There are some specific instances where we do that. But I found, and this is anecdotal and more intuition for me, one of the greatest things that I can't say biracial, but our cross-matching from an ethnicity standpoint, the biggest value I've seen is they allow our kids to see a world that they never would have seen had that white big not walked in their life, right? And so we have what we call a Beyond School Walls program with Comcast. We take 60 kids to the Comcast building twice a month for 10 months, the entire school year. And we had a kid, he got off the bus, walks in the Comcast building. We take him up to the 53rd floor. He's looking out over the city, and he's never been on an elevator before, right? And someone says to him, I think you live right over here. And he said, I never knew this city was this big, right? And so he's disheveled, doesn't look like he takes care of himself. We put him with a white big. Maybe 3-4 weeks later, we see this same kid comes to Comcast. He has khakis on, nice pressed collared shirt. And the match support specialist, the case manager that works with him, said, hey, what's going on? What's up with the change in the way you dress? He said, well, I want to dress like my big. And I want to work in a place like Comcast. And so for me, what that says is our kids need access. They need exposure, right? And a myriad of other things. But at a minimum, they need to be able to see what is actually possible, right? And then we can bring in all the other things, whether there's other mental health needs, whether other resource needs that the family needs. But that big is able to open the idea up for these kids. And one of the things I always say, well, kids don't learn from people they don't like, right? And so we know that we are the best at building relationships between adults and kids.
So let me ask you, as Marcus Allen, not necessarily whether it be through Big Brother Big Sister or not, what for you is the ultimate objective of your work in mentoring?
Well, my ultimate objective is very broad and very high level, and that is every kid that needs a mentor gets one. It's a very simple goal that when I took this job 3.5 years ago, I told the board and they thought I was crazy. Because we know that in this country, 1 in 3 kids will not have a mentor in their lives before the age of 19. And we know what happens to those kids who don't get a positive mentor. They may get a negative mentor, a drug dealer, or someone on the corner who's going to exploit them. And so in Philadelphia, we know we have anywhere between 200 and 250,000 at-risk kids, right? So I just told you, we serve 4,000 kids. We got 1,200 kids on the waiting list. We do one-to-one mentoring. We're probably not going to find 250,000 caring, compassionate adults who want to be bigs in our program. So that's why we started the Mentoring Partnership Resource Center, understanding that there was over 150 nonprofits who were doing some sort of work around mentoring. And some people do different things in Big Brothers Big Sisters. You got people who do natural mentoring, they do group mentoring, they do sports mentoring. There's a lot, e-mentoring, there's so many different types of mentoring. But a lot of these organizations don't have capacity to really do any evaluation and research on these models that they thought would work. And they've been doing it, and you talk to them, they say, oh, we're doing great work. And I'm just like, well, can you quantify that work for me? Yep. Can you show me? Yeah. And they can't do that. And so my goal is, to your question, how do we lift those organizations up, right? A rising tide rises all ships. And so we're in the business of doing technical assistance, training, capacity building, helping organizations go after resources so that these organizations can do no harm, right? At a minimum, we do no harm. And right now we got organizations who are doing harm, right? Anytime you bring a kid on board and you set an expectation and you stop abruptly serving that kid, that's you're causing harm to that kid and a ripple effect through that community. So that's my ultimate goal, to make sure every kid who needs a mentor, because I can tell you now, none of us who are sitting on this stage got to where we are just because of our, just being handsome and talented and all that, right? Right? You had to have somebody, right, who helped you get here.
Yeah, certainly so.
And shouldn't every kid have that opportunity? Yeah.
Well, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll have our final thoughts up here with Marcus Allen.
Currently, I work for Wawa. I participate in the Beyond School Walls program. And that's how I got involved with Big Brother, Big Sister the second time around. The first time around, I was involved as a little. We lived in New York at a very early age. My father died. So my mother needed some help. So she reached out to Big Brother, Big Sister. And that's when I met my big, Louis Lee. Louis was that door to show me something different, where if I was never exposed to, this whole nother world, that I would grow up, at this point, 49 years old, and living in the same financially strapped neighborhood, dealing with the same challenges that my parents dealt with. I would really hate to think that I would be in that situation, but the reality of it is, I'm no different from them, I'm no better than them. The difference is, I was given an opportunity through Big Brothers Big Sister to meet Louis. And he turned my world around. I cannot, talk about Louis enough to get people to understand the impact just one person can have in a little's life. This is just about someone just saying, hey, you know what? You matter, your life matters. I'm going to be here for you, and you can depend on me.
We're back with 28 Days and our final thoughts. How can we get people off their assets and get them back to be mentors in a plethora of ways?
Well, I love your, your statement there. Well, being that it's Black History Month, one of my biggest focuses is African American men. Okay. And I'm going to be honest with that. And I think what we need to help our men understand is that there's a huge need out here, and our young boys need them. And if you're someone like myself, I got 3 daughters, we understand that we need to help these young men, give them role models and mentors to show them how to respect themselves, how to respect our women, and also how to build a future for themselves. And so if you're sitting at home and you're seeing this and you feel like there's something you can do, but you can't commit 12 to 12 months doing this with Big Brothers Big Sisters, there are so many organizations in this area that are willing to take you on and customize how they can use you, and the skills and the assets that you bring to the table, and how that can be parlayed into helping a young person get to where they need to be in life. And this is no slight against women. One of the things we found across the country, not just in Philadelphia, we have a lot of women who want to be mentors. We have women on the waiting list waiting for young girls. And so my goal has not been to market towards women because we get them naturally. My goal is to market towards men, and many times men are focused on their careers, or like I said earlier, many of our men are absent from our community, and so that puts more pressure on those of us who are in our community to go and talk to our friends, to go and talk to our uncles and cousins and say, hey, let's go do this together. Let's go take at the minimum, take a kid that is not your blood relative to a game. Take a kid and have that kid help you rake the yard, right? Just do something with that kid. And it doesn't always have to be formal, because informal mentoring has shown to have some effects as well.
Has this been something you've seen growing over the past years, or is it, how would you assess its growth?
There's a huge movement. There's a huge movement around mentoring. Mentoring now has a very positive light around it. And so just this week, as I told you, we had 1,200 people, organizations who came together in D.C. just to talk about mentoring. Then we took that on Thursday to Capitol Hill and met with a number of legislators in Congress. And they have gave us lip service and said, hey, we want to fund you. We want to see where the money is, and they're going to start to invest in this. So this is serious, and we're going to make sure we continue to get that call to action out, particularly to our men, to get involved in this, because it has so much impact on our kids.
That's it. Marcus Allen, we want to thank you for joining us on 28 Days and Beyond, where we celebrate and reflect on our history, our heritage, and our culture in our own authentic voice. Until next time, peace.